Good morning, folks. Welcome to your daily cyber threat brief. It is May 17th, Tuesday, May 17th. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. This is Simply Cyber's morning cybersecurity threat briefing. I'm your host, Gerald Auger, and over the next 30 minutes, I'll be delivering the top cybersecurity news of the day and providing expert analysis on each of these stories. What it means to you as a practitioner, or if you're looking to break into the industry, we got you covered. Shout out and thanks to this stream sponsor, Barricade Cyber Solutions. Cyber criminals have stolen your company's data and derailed your business operations. Barricade Cyber Solutions will help you resolve this ransomware attack and get your business back on track. I want to remind you, if you hold professional certifications that requires CPEs, each episode of Daily Cyber Threat Brief is worth half a CPE, so it stacks, right? 2.5 a week, 10 a month. Be sure to document literally the easiest and I would argue the most enjoyable way to earn CPEs. If you're live, love it. I see 58. Guys, we are stacking up faster and faster every single day on the live stream. I love it. Thank you for being here. You make it special. You make it a real enjoyable experience. If you're watching on replay, thanks for catching the stream. Definitely make sure you drop a comment in chat with your name somehow. That way, if you are going to use it for CPEs, it's undebatable that you were here and part of the show. But if you're watching on replay and you want to go right to the news, that ticker, the timer in the middle of the screen there, when that gets to 0, we're going to start the show roughly. So you can just scrub to the right and get into it. Otherwise, for the next minute or so, I'll be welcoming folks into chat. Good morning, everybody. Hey, Junior. Hey, Real Dre. Or DeReal Dre. Sorry, Real Dre. Jeez. DeReal Dre. I like it. Gary, good to see you. Nathan Bolin. Guys, let me see if I can change my audio. You'll notice I'm wearing my big heavy cans today because oh yeah, there it is. My normal headset that I wear, I basically forgot to plug in yesterday because my workday kind of ended a little later than normal yesterday. And my little one was all up in my business, so I complete distraction, sideshow, yard sale kind of thing. Hey, Kali. Hey, Alsa. Hey, AJ. Cybersecurity Central. I see you. Michelle, Kimberly. Hope you're well. Josh Mason. Thanks for helping mod this morning as I was getting things sorted out. I'll explain what happened. Why we're a couple minutes late. Yeah, aftershocks are dynamite. I love them. You can't speed charge them though. I tried. Unfortunately, you just got to be vigilant about plugging them in. But you want to talk about speed charging? I got French roast right here. You talk about speed charging. This is what we're about to do. Thanks, Nathan. Good to see you. Michael Taylor is in his first week of his first cybersecurity position. Oh, yeah, you've made it. Congratulations, Michael. Let me give you one of these. What are we doing? What would be appropriate? I guess coins. Oh, I can't even hear that. Can you guys hear the sound effects? I can't hear it. My audio's all jacked up. So I guess we won't be having any sound effects today, people. Gotta love the French roast. French roast and a French press. I've tried dabbling in another coffee bean. I always come back to French roast. I don't even know why I mess around. I'm also officially that age where like I know what I like and I'm I don't want to really deviate too much from it. So I try, but for whatever, I'm not doing that. No sound effect. All right. Sorry, folks. The audio. Hey, it wouldn't be a Simply Cyber production if we didn't have some audio issues. Am I right? Karen, good to see you. Harden, Spastic, Arturo, nice to see you. Rolando, I know I promised I'd get everybody into the news when that ticker went to 0, but I do really like saying good morning to you, and I really like my coffee. So, day 2 in the GRC world, Junior. I know you're killing it, dude. I hope that the first 90 days Simply Cyber video, I hope you're executing to it or in some version of it that works best for you. I'm killing it. Good morning from Denver. Love, guys, I don't know if you've had a chance to go to Denver. If you ever get a chance, I think it's a really cool city. Very walkable, great beer, good sports fan base, beautiful, right? You can see the Rockies right off the side. It's a really, really great place. The only problem with Denver is the airport's like a million miles away from Denver, right? Like it's I don't know. You almost need like a transporter to get from the airport to the city. All right, guys. I do need yes, I could get that sound effect. You guys have been dropping some really great suggestions for the sound effects. I've really enjoyed it. I'll be working them in as best I can. But let's move on to the stories, shall we? Shall we get into the CISOseries.com? All right, here we go. Now, guys, here's the reason I was late today. You'll notice that they post the headlines every day. Well, today is the 17th. This is the 16th. I even tried to do a little hacking, right? You can see that, well, you can't really see it, but their URL is basically, you can do URL rewrite and try to jump into the 17th page, which I've tried to do, and they just literally haven't posted it. So I messaged David Spark and told him. But the show must go on. So what I have done, unlike, I don't ever normally do this, I've listened to the podcast already quickly without really thinking about what they're saying. And I've gone and selected pages for the story. So we're going to have that same great experience. It's just going to be a little different than what we're doing. Yeah, it's freestyle show. Wicka, 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 wow. Right? I got the big cans on like DJ. Like I guess I could do like this guy. You know what I mean? So we're doing a freestyle show and no sound effects, so you guys won't get the wah, wah, wah air horn. Okay, let's get into it, all right? Let me turn this music off, and let us turn up the podcast. Here we go.
From the CISO series,
let me know if you can hear the podcast, please.
It's Tuesday, May 17th, 2022.
You should hear the podcast.
Costa Rican ransomware rhetoric somehow gets uglier. The Conti ransomware group posted messages on their leak site notifying the Costa Rican government it raised its ransom demands to $20 million worth of cryptocurrency and threatening to overthrow the government of newly elected President Rodrigo Chavez. Conti already leaked 97% of 670 gigabytes of data stolen from the government agencies, leading the government to declare a state of emergency. Conti's ransomware attacks have had significant impacts on digital services from the government, leading the finance ministry to tell citizens to calculate taxes by hand and pay them at local banks rather than through an online portal.
Jesus. Okay. Wow. Okay, so Conti is now threatening the Costa Rican government. I am surprised. Okay, so let's back this up a minute. Okay, so Costa Rica as a government has been hit by Conti ransomware. We've seen Conti hit numerous other organizations and get paid. We know from the Conti leaks that they are well run. They have staff, HR, all that stuff. They know how much they're going to get paid for each one. Now, I am a little surprised that they're pushing as hard as they can on Costa Rica. Typically with ransomware, right? It's like pay this and Conti does double extortion, right? So it's pay this and they suck out the data and they release it. Now, if I'm not mistaken, we've covered a story that they've already released all the data. So that horse has left the barn. So Costa Rica's not getting that back. And there's no value for Costa Rica to pay for that second extortion. Now, for unlocking all their systems, decrypting it, Costa Rica has basically told Conti to suck it. We're not giving you anything. Piss off. Get out of here. Now, at this point, you kind of shoot your shot and Costa Rica is not doing anything. I'm stunned that Conti is now doubling the ransom because they're not going to pay 10 million. You think they're going to pay 20? Like, oh, you're a hardline negotiator. You got me. I was only going to do it if you doubled the ransom. So this doesn't make any sense to me from Conti's operational capacity. You'd almost think that they would go down to like 7.5 million and throw in a free steak knife set or something with it. But, they doubled it. So I don't get it. Now, if I had to guess, you guys know this would be a good sound effect if I had them. You guys know I always have a little bit of cynicism. I always have a little bit of skepticism, right? I've been in this industry too long for this. If I had to guess, this seems to reek, and I don't know who is adversary of Costa Rica, but this smells of espionage or nation state threat actor level impact, right? Because basically Conti is not relenting from having the Costa Rican government locked down. And they just got this new president, right? Again, my mind goes to these kind of conspiracy theories. Not that I'm a big conspiracy theory wonk or anything, but like this dude has only been in office for a week. They got like, I almost wonder if this president doesn't align politically with somebody else in the world who has influence and can either pay or work with Conti in order to have them target, knowing that this dude was going to be made president. And what's worse than your first day of work than dealing with a ransomware incident and like the entire business that you're in charge of, the Costa Rican government, is a hot mess on fire. You may move to oust this individual and get someone in who would pay the ransom, right? The fact that they're having citizens calculate their own taxes and go to a bank and pay it is a mess. Think about that. Think about that in the United States. Like, it's a mess. Like, this is going to be rife with fraud. Tons of people saying that they paid when they didn't pay. Tons of people overpaying, underpaying. Bank. How does the money go from the bank to the government? How does the government? It's a mess. This is a mess. It sucks. But like I said, I suspect that there's some funny business beyond Conti's normal modus operandi.
DOJ files its first criminal cryptocurrency sanctions case. Late last week, a federal judge disclosed that the U.S. Justice Department launched a case against an American citizen accused of transmitting over $10 million in Bitcoin to a virtual exchange located in a sanctioned country. We don't know which one specifically, but it's either Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Syria, or Russia. In a 9-page opinion about accepting the case, U.S. Magistrate Judge Zia M. Faruqi called cryptocurrency's claim of anonymity a myth, saying the DOJ can and will criminally prosecute individuals and entities for failure to comply with OFAC's regulations, including as to virtual currency. The defendant was not named, and the case remains sealed.
Seriously? Today's the day my soundboard goes out, guys. I'm a crypto evangelist. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. That's as close as we're going to get to Charles Finfrock. Guys, this is nuts, right? U.S. sanctions are not to be trifled with. You can't send money. You can't do financial dealings, right? This is a huge reason. Well, one of the reasons all those businesses pulled out of Russia, right? Like, there's economic sanctions that are on an unprecedented level. Part of the reason why the economy is a hot mess on fire over there right now. So, crypto. It's totally anonymous. It's decentralized. It doesn't require the government intervention. Well, guess what? If you violate sanction laws, you're going to be held accountable regardless of what it is. Now, I love that they do this right here. Virtual currency is untraceable. Wrong. Issue 2. Sanctions do not apply to virtual currency. Wrong. Right? This is serious. And by the way, whether or not you're like pro decentralized financial institutions, I mean, you could technically make here's my thing. Where's my punch in? You could technically make an argument, I would argue, that cryptocurrency, it's not an argument, it's a fact. It's decentralized, right? So what they're arguing here is that a U.S. citizen or a U.S. business, if the money was associated with a business, but it says American citizen in the story right here, sent some value or financial value to a blacklisted country, right? So you're violating this as a U.S. citizen. It's just weird. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is this sets an interesting precedent for case law obviously it's the first criminal cryptocurrency sanctions case, but like, what if, like, let's just say that I sent like a Nespresso coffee maker to the Kremlin. That has value, right? It's not like you can buy a loaf of bread or missile with an espresso coffee maker, but it has value. Does that violate sanctions? Well, I'm being playful, but think about it, right? So now we're going to say cryptocurrency, which you could argue has value, but it's not I'm being a little gray here, but like, it's not exactly a government-backed currency. So where do you define what is something of value that would violate these economic sanctions? Personally, I'm not surprised, guys. Like, we're going to see, like, as crypto becomes more and more adopted by government and mainstream, we've already seen Venezuela go on to Bitcoin, right? Like, as more and more comes up like this, centralized government is going to try to regulate, control, get their hands involved. We see China doing their own blockchain altogether, probably their own cryptocurrency. It's it's a tool, right? This is what it is. Crypto is a tool, and tools, like centralized government likes to control the tools so they can influence and manage the population, right? Which is kind of part of what cryptocurrency was supposed to be addressing as decentralized. But anyways, this is interesting case law. That's the takeaway here. Follow this one.
Trying to fix open source supply chain security. After a meeting with officials in the Biden administration, the Linux Foundation and Open Source Security Foundation announced plans to invest over $150 million over the next 2 years to make the open source software supply chain more secure. This comes as part of an overall 10-point plan to boost open source security. A group of tech companies, including Amazon, Ericsson, Google, Intel, Microsoft, and VMware, already pledged $30 million in initial funding. As part of this, Google Cloud said that it will launch an open source maintenance crew, a dedicated team of engineers who will work directly with upstream open source maintainers.
All right. So this is really great news, guys. If you caught my 800-161R1, which just rolls off the tongue like butter, if butter rolled off tongues, supply chain is a real concern, right? There is legit cybersecurity risk with supply chain. And supply chain doesn't just mean your Amazon packages coming off a shipping container onto a truck, into a distribution center, onto your front porch, right? It means anything that is produced not by you or your company that gets put into products produced by you and your company, right? I feel like supply chain is often thought of as like mechanical parts, manufactured parts, right? Like, oh, here's my Raspberry Pi, but like here's where the chip came from, here's where the motherboard came from, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's also software. What's the firmware that runs on the Raspberry Pi? Okay, it's this Raspbian OS created by the Raspberry Pi Foundation. Okay, but does it use any open source software? Oh yeah, of course it does. It uses this, and this. Well, who wrote that? Well, not Raspberry Pi Foundation, right? So it gets muddled really quickly, but it's important because we are seeing instances where backdoors are being, or malicious functionality. It could be backdoors, it could be key sniffers, whatever. Like malicious functionality is being baked into open source packages. And, it's open source. Anyone can contribute to them. And it's usually volunteer based that's managing them. So if you want, you can slowly introduce things in there, aka we saw this with SolarWinds famously, not open source, but the same principle, and have it percolate up until it gets baked into some product or solution, right? And then now you have a backdoor, which is great if you're the bad guys. So I'm not surprised that the big tech companies are investing heavily in this. They have a financially vested interest in having tech be secured, including their own tech, right? So good for them. And okay, hold on one second. My dog is like losing his mind. Bro, calm down. All right, here we go.
Twitter CEO outlines the platform's spam calculations. Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal published a Twitter thread explaining why the company has confidence in its estimate that less than 5% of its users were spam accounts. This comes after a Reuters report expressed skepticism of this number, leading Elon Musk to say his acquisition of the company was on hold. Agrawal said this estimate relies on private data like IP addresses, account activity, and browser signatures to help sort accounts that might superficially appear to be spam. He further said the estimate is based on multiple human reviews of thousands of accounts sampled at random over time from its monetizable daily active users every quarter. The thread further stated Twitter suspends over 500,000 spam accounts daily, usually before they're ever seen by any other users.
Okay, so whatever. This is an interesting news story. It's kind of one of Elon Musk's like key objectives that he was like, all right, this is the first thing I'm doing. An Elon Musk emoji, Kimberly. All right, hold on. Let me write it in the notebook. Okay, guys, if it gets written in the notebook, it's legit. It's happening. All right, that'll be there tomorrow, Kimberly. Plus, my audio will be fixed. Guys, Elon was like, listen, one of the first things I'm going to do when I take over this platform is get rid of all the spam bots because there's a lot in there and it's a hot mess on fire. So like basically Twitter originally came out publicly to shareholders and stuff and said, hey, listen, less than 5% is spam, 95% is legit. He's going to do this sample. And now there's some, I've heard that there's some musing that, under the rules of what I was buying as Twitter, there were certain publicly stated facts, including this particular one. Basically, Elon might be able to back out of the purchase, right? He may be able to. He kept the receipts, if you will. So I don't know if he's planning on backing out of the acquisition. There's been some talk about that. But this is an ongoing story. I think that there's way more spam bots than that. There's also, guys, you got to remember too, there's also a ton of inactive accounts. Like real humans created real accounts that are inactive, right? So that could skew the data set as far as, what the percentages of spam bots, because you got to remember the spam bots are active. So there's that. Stay tuned. There's been some talk. I see a couple people talking. Is this the emo you want? Elon with the finger pointing? If that's what you want, put it in chat. If there's a different famous Elon one, I'm a little aloof when it comes to pop culture, unfortunately, but I'm free to admit it. So if this is the one you guys want, holler at me and we'll put that in. And if it's a different one, let me know and we'll do that. But either way, I'm interested in continuing to follow Elon Musk and what he's doing with Twitter and how that's all working. Also, fun fact, I got messaged by Chris Rock of Sim Monster, not Chris Rock the comedian, but Chris Rock, one of my top 3 favorite presenters or lecturers or speakers of all time. I love when this guy talks. He doesn't do it very often, but when he does, it's fantastic. He called me a Twitter whore. So I told him it was an achievement unlocked, and I appreciated it. I'm going to try to get him on Simply Cyber as well. So cool. All right.
Now let's think. Big Tech asks SCOTUS to stop Texas content moderation law. The tech industry trade groups NetChoice and the Computer Communications Industry Association appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court for an emergency stay on Texas Law HB 20, which created liability for large platforms that moderate content based on the viewpoint of the user or another person. This request will be reviewed by Justice Samuel Alito, who could either unilaterally decide on the stay or refer it to the entire court. The law became effective last week after a 3-judge federal appeals court panel overturned a previous injunction. The trade group successfully won an injunction on a similar Florida law on First Amendment grounds.
All right. I don't fully understand this story. Like with all these free speech things, it's typically wrapped around things like this. Okay. Now, remember, this is from the NetChoice counsel, Chris Marchese, which means, for better or worse, in any argument, there are 2 sides to the argument. So this individual, this attorney, is representing one side of the argument. So obviously it's going to have bias. But he's saying that this bill strips private online businesses of their speech rights and doesn't allow them to make editorial decisions. So think Facebook saying, this is inappropriate and we're not going to publish it, like your message. The First Amendment prohibits Texas from forcing online platforms to host and promote pro-Nazi speech, foreign propaganda, et cetera, et cetera. So what they're saying here is this is a First Amendment discussion of how am I allowed to freely voice my voice, in the public space, right? I should be able to stand on a soapbox and yell whatever dribble I want at anyone, but I also can't go into a movie theater and yell fire, right? So that's what this is about. I did not know about this particular thing, and I don't know what the other side of the argument is. I suppose the other side of the argument is that you don't want this kind of hate speech being promoted, and they want the big tech companies to continue to have the authority to stifle, shadow ban, remove posts, remove people's access, right? Like famously, Donald Trump's Twitter account was disabled or banned or whatever you want to call it. So that's what this law is around. Again, one thing, can we just share for a second? Like, how do you get to skip it all the way to the Supreme Court? Like, I get that, like, my speeding ticket isn't going to get to the Supreme Court, but dude, there are so many. Yeah, I'll take it to the Supreme Court. Like, how does Texas get this level of access where you can just skip? You could skip all the stages and just get to the Supreme Court. Like, that's, you want to talk about a Disney Fast Pass or whatever they call it now, where you get to skip the lines and get right on Space Mountain. This is the legal equivalent of a Fast Pass. I don't know who made what payment or donation or whatever, but geez, that's impressive. So whatever, we'll see. This is another one of those, like the cryptocurrency U.S. sanction criminal charge. This is another one of those ones that will make a very interesting case law on what is the authority of these private, mind you, big tech firms and their ability to moderate the content being created by the users of the platform.
NSA chief says no backdoors in quantum encryption standards. The National Institute of Standards and Technology has been developing quantum-resistant encryption standards for a while now. In an interview, NSA Director of Cybersecurity Rob Joyce said there are no backdoors being designed into these new standards that could let spies bypass encryption. He did say the NSA is working with NIST to test the various quantum encryption standards still under development in order to harden them for the overall industry.
All right. Hey, Alfredo, I see you dropping comments in here about constitutional law. I definitely don't have any legal background or understanding. It just seems strange to be able to get right to the Supreme Court. I mean, like you said, the states have their own Supreme Court. Like, wouldn't you go through that? It's like escalating an issue to the CEO of a Fortune, of a 100,000 person company. Like, yeah, I get that you want to get reimbursed for your lunch during your lunch and learn session, but maybe you go to your manager first to get that approved before you go to the CEO. It just seems peculiar, right? It's all about access, right? Okay, so now this story: the NSA cyber chief vows no backdoors in quantum. Okay, first of all, like, what's the NSA chief gonna say? Like, yeah, we're baking them in. It looks good. Usually, the one thing I'm gonna say about this, guys, is that encryption algorithms, at least, encryption algorithms are typically publicly reviewed, analyzed, open forum, whatever you want to call it, right? When we chose AES as the legit approved encryption standard back a million years ago, there was a contest. There is a contest going on right now, right? Dr. Ross Anderson, who was on the channel not too long ago, some of you may have caught him, was involved with one of the groups out of the UK who wrote one of the encryption standards that was a finalist but lost to AES, aka Raindoll. If you really want to dig into your CISP and Sec Plus study guides, it's like literally the only time you'll ever hear anyone say Raindoll, which is that actual name of the AES encryption standard. But here's the thing. Because encryption is analyzed publicly, like, I don't know how you're going to bake a backdoor in. It would have to be in the implementation of that standard, which many different solutions can use the standard to implement, right? So we see PGP, we see, whatever, OpenSSL. I'm kind of throwing a couple different ones out there, but there's different ways to implement encryption algorithms, but the algorithm is typically transparent because the algorithm isn't the security. It's the key that gets generated. That's the security. You have to protect the key. Like, I'll just leave it and then I'll move on. I wish I had a spicy thing because I'm getting a little pissy. And you guys know, I don't even really care about crypto that much, but this one bothers me. Hold on, this is the least I can do. Listen to me. Anyone that develops an in-house closed source black box encryption standard and says it's wicked secure is full of crap. Okay. I've seen it multiple times where people think that they're so clever that they come up with their own standards and they're not. Like, just leverage what has been proven and validated and vetted as unbreakable at this time. Like, why do you need to invent your own? It always boggles my mind. I don't run into these people very often, these developers, but occasionally I bump into them where it's like, okay, so how are you encrypting the data at rest? And they're like, oh, I wrote my own solution. You're like, oh my God, like what? And they're like, oh, it's unbreakable. It's like, dude, you are not a crypto, like you're like, with all due respect, you're a software developer, you're a great software developer, but you're not like, like, what's your math background? Like, why did you spend a dime to save a nickel? Just use what's out there, sir, ma'am. Okay, cool. Spicy. Okay, I'll just do the sound effects myself today. Okay.
CISA warns about installing a Windows update. Late last year, CISA established its Known Exploited Vulnerability Catalog, a list of known software exploits that federal civilian executive branch agencies are required to patch within 3 weeks of being added. However, the agency recently removed the May 2022 Patch Tuesday update from the list due to an Active Directory authentication issue. The issue is that Windows Update patched an actively exploited Windows LSA spoofing 0-day that could force domain controllers to authenticate an attacker remotely. For those that have already installed the update, Microsoft recommends manually mapping certificates to a machine account in Active Directory.
Oh yeah, because like domain admins are going to do that. Listen, this is just one of those things that, it sucks. A patch came out. The good news is they broke it. The good news is that they broke it, or excuse me, that they discovered that it introduced a new serious vulnerability almost immediately, and we've taken action. Guys, if you're new to the game, like, we as an industry never moved this quick. This is awesome. Like, this is an indicator of how far we've come in our industry, that like CISA was able to first promote it, then pull it back. There's workarounds. Microsoft came out almost within like 5 days that this is a thing. Watch out. Granted, it was being actively exploited almost immediately, so that's a problem. But my thing is, we never moved this quick back in the day, right? I mean, it would take like 90 to 90 days, 4 months to like get the patches out, if you even got them out. Like, this is cool. And then you'd have no visibility. So good on them. I will say that this workaround is a hot mess, right? Manually mapping certificates to machine accounts. Like, yeah, you could do it. But if anyone here in chat works with or in AD, Active Directory, as well as I do, you can shine the outside of that thing. But if you if you open the hood, it looks like Christmas 1984 string lights situation. It is a mess. And you just like, ooh, and you like close the hood and back away. That's what you do with Active Directory. I have not seen a single Active Directory that was implemented in a clean way, because it's like SharePoint. You start building stuff, you just make little quick changes, you just add a couple accounts, and then all of a sudden you've got this unwieldy mess that you can't fix, because it's like trying to repair an airplane in flight. Like, this thing is production. We depend on it immensely. We don't touch it. Don't touch it. Just keep kind of piling crap on top of it and have it like striations. Just time will push it down and we'll be okay. Like, yeah, okay. Active Directory is legitimately an example where like the textbook and the reality are miles apart. Because I'm telling you, man, there is all sorts of vestigial legacy yuckiness going on up in everybody's AD. The best you can hope for is just enumerating who's got domain admin accounts, making them justify that access, and then removing it appropriately. And then telling those remaining people, yo, you can't have domain access to check your email and to drive around. Yeah, I know you can just pop into different machines, but like, how about we give you a general user account and you don't put our entire enterprise at risk? You feel me? Spicy! Like, God, I can't believe I have to do these sound effects manually today.
Now your Should Have Patched Tuesday update. Now that we're done talking about updates CISA does not want you to install, let's run down some that you should patch. SonicWall released multiple patches for vulnerabilities in its secure mobile access appliances, with one high-severity vulnerability open to unauthorized access. Apple released an emergency security update to address a 0-day impacting Macs and Apple Watch devices, involving an out-of-bounds write issue in the Apple AVD to execute arbitrary code. Apple says this may have been actively exploited. Thanks for listening to today's...
All right. So that's going to do it for today's daily cyber threat brief, as we call it now. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I appreciate you giving me some grace as I had to get these stories lined up for myself. Guys, let me share a couple things with you. All right. Obviously, thanks for thanks for indulging me as I did my sound effects. Guys, if you want, tomorrow at 8 a.m., we'll be doing the daily cyber threat brief. And, obviously it'll be awesome. Sound effects, stories, everything. I'll get with David Spark and try to sort out that other thing. But if you're looking for something a little fancy pants, may I suggest, maybe you're celebrating an anniversary, perhaps a big promotion at work. How do you take it to the next level in the celebration? Well, Chef has prepared for you today at 11:30 a.m. tomorrow on Eastern Standard Time. Josh Mason and I will be competing live against each other using the ThreatGen Red versus Blue platform. I will be the CISO defending a manufacturing plant. Josh, or an oil and gas pipeline company. I'm not sure yet. Josh will be the attacker. Josh is formerly trained in offensive security. I am formerly trained in defensive security. You can watch Josh's feed. You can watch my feed. Or ThreatGen will be hosting a centralized feed where they'll have commentators, and it'll basically be a broadcast production of an esport event, which is me versus Josh. So there's a lot of logistics going on, but as a consumer of the event, all you need to know is you can watch it, my feed, and hang out with me, Josh's feed, hang out with Josh, or watch it as a sporting event with ThreatGen. So go to ThreatGen's YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/ThreatGen. And be sure to, subscribe or hit the reminder or whatever you want if you want to come hang out. This right here is you can see this is the esports live, but if you go to my feed, whoops, hold on. Simp, LOL. Okay. If you go to mine, you'll see right here, I've labeled it when cybersecurity forces clash. Okay. So hopefully you get the idea. Woo! Look at all these squad members. God, you guys are going to make me do the sound effect, huh? Okay, so I don't have the sound effect, but squad members do get a sound effect. AJ Gomez, thanks to the alpha upgrade. Hefty Pegasus, thanks to the squad membership. Wow! Okay, so that's the best I can do on that. Guys, also wanted to tease out, if you guys are familiar with Stefan Walvogel, wonderful ally of the cybersecurity community. In fact, he's a member of the cybersecurity community and a wonderful individual, very, very giving, very, very selfless as far as contributing real information, real useful tools, real, hard truths to the community. He's coming on Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And he is, he's a SIM engineer for Greylog now, but he moved from Germany. He has done a whole bunch of stuff on getting a job. He really only applied for like 2 or 3 jobs before he got this job. So I don't want to focus exclusively on how to break into the industry, but he's got a lot of information on that. But I want to talk about what a SIM engineer does. Is that a job that you would like? What makes it good? What makes it bad? What are his experiences like? He's just a cool guy. And, we're going to have a good time. Plus, I'm actually flirting with introducing a new segment to the Thursday Simply Cyber Live broadcasts called 5 Questions That Have Nothing to Do with Cybersecurity. Kind of a look behind the scenes at the person that we're interviewing. I'm flirting with this idea, so don't hold me too strongly accountable if I do it differently, 3 questions that have nothing to do with cybersecurity or something like that. But anyways, definitely come by on Thursday at 4:30. You're going to enjoy that particular conversation and experience. Guys, that's going to do it for today's episode of First Things First. I appreciate you, as always, riding with me as we did as the sound effects and audio were all kind of janky and the news stories weren't proper. But I think we did all right. Guys, be good. I will see you all tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the daily cyber threat briefing. Be good, everybody.